I'm going to show you some short clips from the videos on our website at efficiencysolutionsllc.com. That'll give you a little better in-depth understanding of how our system may help you improve yours. Columns right here are going to add up or subtract in this column in the event that your processes become more efficient. Every day that you add the job from the prior day, these totals are just going to keep adding up. This master job history screen has enough capacity to hold 3 months of 7 days a week production, 20 jobs per machine for 30 machines. And then at the end of the quarter, this data then is transferred to another screen so that you can look week by week, day by day, quarter by quarter. In the event that you want to be able to run your first month's financial statements after using the system, determine what your financial outcome was, then you can come back to this master job history screen and you can say, well, here's part of our problem, or here's the reason we were so successful because these numbers were extremely low. And that's really what we want to be able to do, is to be able to identify from a financial perspective where our problems lie. Another great attribute of this particular screen is that it allows us to sort all of the data that we have collected over the quarter by customer, part number, machine or process, problem code, whether it's defect problems or runtime problems, efficiencies to quotes or routings, overproduction percentages by operator, by number of defects, by setup time, and by finish date and time. And basically it's very simple. We go over here and we click and we drop down to the amount of data that we want to sort. If we want to sort by customer, which is column M, we just click on sort, sort by, column M. Click OK. Now our data is sorted by customer name. Now let's say we just want to sort through these Ford jobs and look for some further information. We would just pick what we want to do with the customer there, which is Ford, and let's look for efficiencies to quote, which is column Y. Let's sort Ford by column Y, and we now have our efficiencies all sorted. If we wanted to take that same group of data, you can basically sort it by any of these. Okay, so that will allow you to, in a very short period of time, get a lot of information that you're going to need in order to make decisions. Another nice option that this screen shows is that it lists all of our problem codes, and it also tells us how many quality problems for each of the problem codes we had, the percentage of those that were problems, and it calculates the amount of time wasted due to those quality problems with regard to how much time we quoted each part to be run on our quote. It also categorizes the same thing in runtime problems. So it's going to categorize how many times you had a PR code and what percentage was that of the total. And again, it's going to give us our hours of waste to date, because these numbers are going to keep going up and up and up and up as you keep putting more and more information in on a day-by-day basis. The other problem codes are located right here, and it's just the balance of the problem codes that we ended up putting in on the operations setup page from the very first video. In addition to that, it's also telling us of all of the problems, be they quality or runtime problems that we had, what machines those problems occurred at most in order of highest to lowest. In this particular case, you can scroll across, but we see that machine number 1 is highlighted in red with 4, then 2, then 0, and then machine number 4 has 2, and so on and so forth. The next thing we're going to look at right now is operator scheduling in real time. How do we know when an operator is going to be available to run a machine? Just because the machine's available, if we only have 20 operators and 30 machines, we need to know when can an operator get to that machine, or vice versa. So let's take a look at that. This is the operator availability screen. It shows us our part number that we've selected up here. Down here is all of the names that we put in the operation setup screen appear in this column right here. And then basically this system is set up for 30 machines, and we put in what machines each operator is qualified to run, being machine numbers 1, 2, 3, so on until we get to 30. And then what we're going to do is we're looking for up here, it's telling us the next operation sequence, which is 1, then 4, then 100. It's also telling us that we can use machines 1 or we can use machines 2. I'm not going to go through each of the machine selection just to save time in the video, I just want to show you how the system works and how simple it is and how effective it is. So we're going to look at machine number 1. Okay, machine number 1, it lights up red right here, because as you scroll across to look for operators, the red shows up so you know what machine you're at. And then qualified for this machine, and it says that number 1 and number 3 are qualified. So let's look at number 3. Okay, number 3 is busy until 9:13 at 11:16 a.m. Our job is starting on 9:13 at 6:40 a.m. is the next available start time for machine number 1. So let's look at the other person was, I think, number 1. Yeah, it was. So let's check number 1. 6:40. Oh, number 1, he was running that machine anyway, or she, whoever it was, Tom, I guess, Tom Jones. He's available the soonest of those two. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say that we want to use number 1. And then if we go to machine 4, it just repeats. Okay, we're going to go to machine 4. It's going to say that we can use either 2 or 20. If we scroll down to 4, it's telling us that we have a 1:54 p.m. and 2 is on that one, so let's just go with 2. Okay, so now if we go back to our machine screen, those numbers are going to appear at the top and tell us to schedule those operators. So we're back in the first machine screen, and it says operator 1. Start time for machine number 1 is 6:40 a.m. on 9:13. And if we move to machine 2, we see its available start time is 9:45 a.m. And let's check out the last process, machine 4. It can't start on anything until 1:06. So either machines 1 or machines 2 would work in this case. So we're just going to go with machine 1. And again, all we're going to do is we're going to enter the part number dash machine number, just like it says right here. And cell, we enter, just as it says up here, a 1. This information is all going to come from your customer and your sales order, so I'm not going to bother typing that in while you watch, take up your time. And we see that the job is going to start at 6:40 a.m. If you recall, we have a 15-minute break at 10, and this job is going to run from 6:40 a.m. to 10:32. Okay, if we take that out, then the job would end sooner at 10:17. But we have that 15-minute break that we talked about in the operation setup screen, if you recall, in the first video. So we put that in, and it moves that next available start time for machine 1 out to 10:32. If we look back up on top here now, our next machine in the sequence is machine number 4. So to make things a little quicker, we're just going to grab this data from the sales order, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to go to machine number 4, and we're going to paste it in. Okay, interestingly enough, we see that the machine column and the start time have turned red. And what that means is that we've scheduled the wrong machine for the wrong machine schedule. So if we change the 1 to a 4, the red goes away, and we know that we've scheduled the right machine and the right machine screen. We need to change our operator to operator number 2. And then our next step is shipping, which is 100. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to grab this data. I'm going to copy it. Go to the shipping screen. I'm going to paste it in. Screen. In the shipping screen, we look up here and we see last process end time. And so really what we want to do is we want to let the people in shipping know when those parts from machine 4 are going to be coming into the shipping area so they can be prepared for them. So in order to schedule it, we hit the equal sign, we move back to machine 4, and we hit the end time for that process. Assume that it's first thing in the morning, and the first thing we need to get to the boss is what are we going to be shipping today, because they're going to want to know that as soon as they hit the door. So we look at our scheduled end times in the shipping department, and we see that we've got the first 3 jobs are going to ship on the 11th, and then there's nothing else until the 12th. So we go over here where it says if the processes are complete, we're going to have those finished today, so we're going to put those in. Okay, those are the jobs that are going to be shipping today. Now after we've entered what is going to be shipping today in the from the shipping schedule, this is the material status screen. Basically what this is, giving you some basic information on what your customer has ordered. But most of all, what it's allowing us to do is determine if we have the necessary materials in stock, and if we've got them to a point where we can pull them for a start time of 6 a.m. on 9/12 for production, then we put a Y in this particular column. And then as you'll see as we move along, this Y shows up on all the other production scheduling screen and the material availability screen, so that everybody knows that we do have the stock. No one has to check or recheck again. That's what this screen is for. And also, if you see any voids in here, they'll show up on the production schedule, and it keeps it in front of everybody, so you don't have to keep reviewing things or having, discussing it at meeting, where we are with this, where we are with that. And that's really what the material status screen does. This screen is a part of each of the 30 machine screens, so that we just scroll back to the left where we can go ahead and begin to schedule our job. This is the material and information status screen. When we entered a Y in that one column that said we had the material, that Y is then transferred into these columns that we see here for all 30 machines, so that we can quickly look at whether or not material is available for all the machines. We can view all 30 machines and look for cells that are not green with a Y in them. And it just goes all 30 of our machines. There's nothing in any of these because I haven't scheduled anything, but you can see how easy it is to look for gaps where you don't have material that's ready to be sent to that particular machine at that particular start time. One thing that we want to make sure you understand is, as jobs run faster and slower than quoted, these times are going to change. So throughout the day, this job, maybe because it's the first one in the morning, it'll start on time. From there on out, though, as jobs move faster and slower than quoted or routed, these times are going to change throughout the day and throughout time, because there's 300 different jobs you can have in here. And they show the part numbers, the start times, and whether or not we have material. So that's basically for the material control personnel to view, and the plant managers just to look for gaps to make sure that we're on schedule and everybody knows where material is supposed to be and when it's supposed to be there. These are all of our machines that we've put in on the system setup page, and basically what it's doing is it shows us our total percentage of backlog. It's basically just highlighting those processes with the most backlog in red, so that they stand out to you. And then at the same time, see which machines you have historically are your bottleneck processes. And then from there you can go to the job history screen and look at all part numbers that run through your highest bottleneck process machine number. And then that will give you the information on which part numbers and which customers are affected the most by the bottlenecks in your system. And at the same time, we're going to be able to look at how many hours of machine time are scheduled for every machine in our plant on each work day. In this particular case, on 5/17, we're showing backlog on do-all saw number 1 of 8.67 hours. It is our backlog bottleneck process, and we show that we're running 8.67 hours today, which is basically all of our backlog. And so you can kind of just look down through the list and see which jobs have backlog that you're not working on. In this example would be the do-all saw number 2 has 3.6 hours backlog, but we're not running that machine today, as well as our 110-ton stamping press machine number 8. It has 7.25 hours, but we're not scheduled to run that today. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to give you an indication of your backlog and how your plant is being scheduled to deal with that backlog on a daily basis. I wanted to take a minute to show you how we find out where part numbers are on the shop floor or in our backlog. To locate where jobs are presently, we just move to the hours late alarm screen, and up in this area right here where it says part number needed, we enter the part number. Let's look for part number 1234. So we entered part number 1234, we hit enter, and then it says press F5 key and enter KC10. So we're going to hit F5, KC10, enter. That takes us to the shipping screen, and you notice that our part number is highlighted in green right here, and it's telling us that the scheduled finish time in the shipping department, in other words when the order is wrapped up and ready to go, is going to be at 8:22 a.m. These parts have not made it into shipping because they're not complete yet, and the scheduled ship time according to what the customer had wanted was 9/12. And again, this is our cutoff date to get it into shipping to ship on time. This is telling us that the next operation is to the customer, 200, and the value. Because it isn't complete yet and we want to know at what machine station is it presently at, we would just then scroll to the left until we see that part number highlighted in green again. So it's telling us that this particular part is presently at machine 30. It's scheduled to finish at 8:05, and then it's going to move into the next operation, which is shipping, which we've already discussed that. And that's basically the simplest way to find out where parts are on the shop floor or in your backlog. When there's no maintenance required, these cells are all green. I'm just going to enter some planned shift run quantities for these particular part numbers. Okay, now what you see here is that we have 40 minutes of maintenance that has come up, that we have used up 75% of the elapsed time between maintenance intervals. So let's keep scheduling. Add another 20. Okay, now we have 50 minutes of maintenance that needs to be done that's used up the first 75 percentile of the elapsed time between maintenance intervals. This could be one item. It could be a combination of 26, depending on how you set up your time intervals. So this is not just one item. It could be 5 or 6, but the total time between all of them is going to be 50 minutes. Okay, now what we see here is 40 minutes of the old 50 minutes has now gone into orange, which means we've now used up 87% of our allotted amount of maintenance time between intervals. And 10 more have come into the green. And that's when you look at this, that's what you're seeing. Between all the two of them, we have a total of 50 minutes. So let's add another one. Okay, now you see that the quantity that was in yellow has now moved into orange, and the orange has now, portions of the orange has now moved into the red, and we still have 50 minutes worth of maintenance that's really close now. So what we would probably do, because we show no customer demand down here, after 9:13 at 6:48 a.m. on this machine. And so basically it's as simple as this. M for maintenance, machine 1, Machine 1, scheduled maintenance. Okay? We always have to put a 1 in this column. For maintenance, this really doesn't apply. So we've got 50 minutes. So let's schedule 50 minutes. We have a start time of 6:17 where it says scheduled maintenance time. We're just going to come down to this cell and we're going to input our 50 minutes. And we now have maintenance beginning at 6:19 because we give 2 minutes for maintenance people to get to the particular machine. And we have an end time of 7:24. So the next customer order that comes in, or internal order if you make your own parts, can begin at 7:24 a.m. And that concludes the video on the job and process history screens and continuous improvement tracking. And I hope that you can see the value in how our systems may help you improve yours. Thank you for visiting Efficiency Solutions.